My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. It's a terrific afternoon to look at the world view today. Here are the top stories we have gathered for you. Journalists continually harassed, jailed, and reportedly killed. Russia accused Ukraine of attempting overnight drone attack on Kremlin with aim of killing President Vladimir Putin. Evacuation of Pakistanis out of crisis hit Sudan ends with more than 1,000 nationals. First on Worldview today is a report on the Press Freedom Day, where UN officials and media outlets have said that press freedom is under attack in every corner of the globe, where journalists continually harassed, jailed, and reportedly killed. To commemorate World Press Freedom Day today, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres issued a rallying cry to journalists and a human rights activist who have been jailed. Other speakers highlighted individual cases such as that of Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Getkovich, detained in Russia on espionage charges he has rejected. A Wall Street Journal publisher, Alma Latour,
are further expanding censorship and threatening freedom of expression. Every corner of the world, freedom of the press is under attack. Truth is threatened by disinformation and hate speech seeking to blur the lines between fact and fiction, between science and conspiracy. The increased concentration of the media industry into the hands of a few, the financial collapse of scores of independent news organizations, and an increase of...
Away from that, Russia is leveled against Kiev since its war on its neighbor began. The allegation was made on Wednesday by the Russian government and reported by several state news agencies. A senior Ukrainian presidential official, Mikhailo Podolyak, told media that Kiev had nothing to do with the alleged incident. In a tweet, he suggested Russia's claims were a false flag, saying Russia is clearly preparing a large-scale terrorist attack. Meanwhile, several Russian cities have announced changes. According to reports, explosions and fires have occurred in Russia in recent weeks, but some have argued that the reduced events show the Kremlin is nervous about celebrations turning into shows of dissent against its invasion of Ukraine. Now, great pomp and shows of military might are the usual hallmarks of Victory Day, which marks the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany on 9th May 1945. One of the day's most recognizable events is to recall that last year President Vladimir Putin led the procession across Red Square in Moscow while holding a photograph of his father in uniform. In a related development, Russia's defense minister has urged a state company to double its production of missiles as an expected Ukrainian counteroffensive looms, and both Moscow's and Kyiv's forces are that the state-owned tactical missiles corporation had been fulfilling its contracts in a timely manner. But Shoigu added, right now it is necessary to double the production of high-precision weapons in the shortest possible time. The military analysts have been trying to. The Institute for the Study of War said on Wednesday that Shoigu's comments on missile production were likely designed to deflect from claims that his ministry was unable to keep Russian forces adequately stocked with ammunition, as well as to appear proactive amid concerns of the impending Ukrainian counteroffensive. Those taken to safety since fighting erupted. According to reports, clashes in Sudan have killed more than 500 people, displaced thousands, and triggered an international exodus. Reports say that the final group of Pakistani nationals were repatriated to Jeddah on Tuesday morning. The evacuees were taken from Port Sudan to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia by boat with the support of Saudi Arabia and China. In the meantime, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has arrived in Kenya to follow up on Minister Alfred Mutua at the main airport in the capital, Nairobi. On his two-day visit, the UN chief will hold talks with President William Ruto and also meet all heads of UN agencies in Nairobi. According to reports, the warring military factions in Sudan have agreed to a 7-day truce starting on Thursday. And while the UN's World Food Programme, WFP, says its ability to resume deliveries of life-saving aid in Sudan will depend on whether the latest ceasefire agreement takes hold. The warring military factions have agreed to a 7-day truce starting on Thursday, but previous ceasefires have been repeatedly violated. A WFP spokesperson, Lenny Zingsley, told newsmen that the agency would prioritize emergency food distribution to pre-existing warehouses in Western Darfur region. Still on the Sudan crisis, the United Nations has said that more than 100,000 people have fled Sudan since heavy fighting broke out between rival forces on 15th April. Officials warned of a full-blown catastrophe if fighting does not end. Reports say that fighting is continuing, and the statement came a day after the UN Special Envoy to Sudan, Volker Perthes, told newsmen that the two sides had agreed to negotiate a stable and reliable ceasefire. According to him, Saudi Arabia was a potential venue for the talks. If talks take place, it would be the first meeting between two sides since the conflict started. And while the government of the UK has said that the final rescue flights are expected to take off from Sudan today, Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said British nationals still wanting to leave the country should go to the Coral Hotel in Port Sudan. He added that there would be no further British evacuation flights from the city. According to reports, about 2,341 people have so far been airlifted to safety on 28 UK flights. It was previously thought the evacuation had ended on the operation of any Western nation. Those rescued during the airlift include Britons, their dependents, Sudanese NHS staff, and other eligible nationalities. The leaders of Serbia and Kosovo have agreed to cooperate to locate and identify hundreds of people still missing from the 1998 majority of Kosovo against Serbia. According to the European Union, EU, 1,621 people remain unaccounted for. The agreement on the missing persons was reached during talks in Brussels. Under the deal, the Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić and Kosovo Prime Minister Albin Kurti pledged to use satellite data people to be chaired by the EU. After the break, Santiago, Uganda's parliament yesterday passed a new draft of anti-gay legislation, retaining many draconian provisions, despite President Yoweri Museveni's call to rework an earlier version of the bill following an outcry by Western governments. So stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. Now, Uganda's parliament yesterday passed a new draft of anti-gay legislation, retaining many draconian provisions despite President Yoweri Museveni's call to rework an earlier version of the bill following an outcry by Western governments. The parliamentary speaker, Annette Anita Among, said the final vote saw the legislation winning approval from all but one lawmaker. According to the speaker, Uganda has a culture to protect, and the Western world will not come to rule the country. Legislators amended portions of the draft law to clarify that identifying as gay would not be criminalized, but engaging in acts of homosexuality would be an offense punishable with life imprisonment. Although Museveni had advised lawmakers to delete a provision making aggravated homosexuality capital punishment for many years. Away from that, now Zambia police have surrounded the house of former President Edgar Lungu in the capital Lusaka and demanded access to search it. Lungu's lawyer, Jonas Zimba, has told newsmen that police officers are conducting a search allegedly linked to the ownership of 3 motor vehicles and a title deed. He said the search follows a complaint against the former First Lady Esther Lungu over her suspicious ownership of the deployment as a breach of Lungu's immunity as guaranteed by the law. Recall that Lungu lost power to Hakainde Hichilema in the August 2021 election. Away from that, police in Brazil have raided the home of former President Jair Bolsonaro as part of an investigation and the capital Brasilia, targeting an alleged criminal network believed to have inserted false COVID-19 vaccination information into public health systems. Police said the false vaccination certificates, which occurred between November 2020, is one of several probes targeting the former far-right leader, a COVID-19 skeptic who, during his tenure, repeatedly downplayed the dangers of the virus and rejected the need for public health restrictions. Week as tension with the United States continues. The Middle East-based U.S. Fifth Fleet and Iranian media confirmed today that the naval force of the Islamic Revolution attacked IRGC vessels approaching a tanker that was identified as the Panama-flagged Niobe. The U.S. said the tanker was forced to vessel had been seized by the IRGC, but did not add further details. Away from that, Israel has expressed hope that authorities in Saudi Arabia would allow direct flights for its Muslim citizens who want to make the Hajj pilgrimage, which takes place next month. Israeli flew each year to Mecca for the Hajj, the pilgrimage which follows the actions of the Prophet Muhammad 1,377 years ago. Taking part in this pilgrimage at least once in participate in the 6-day ritual every year. The Hajj occurs in the 12th month of the Islamic lunar calendar called Dhul Hijjah, between the 8th and 13th days of the month. Now, Roman Protasevich, a dissident journalist who was taken from a plane that went from Greece to Lithuania in May 2021, when the flight was suddenly diverted on the basis of a false bomb alert and landed in Minsk, where he was arrested along with his girlfriend Sofia Sapega. Western leaders called the move editor of Nexta, an opposition Telegram account. Two others behind the Nexta channel, Stepan Puchilo and Jan Rudnik, were sentenced in absentia to 20 years and 19 years in prison respectively, included organizing mass riots, preparing actions, grossly violating public order, calling for sanctions against Belarus, creating or leading an extremist group. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Robert, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom, and you've been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV.